just need to make a motion.
Michael?
Someone just needs to make a motion.
Dave, you wanna make a motion?
What?
Go for it.
We need a mayor. We need a head
That's right.
mayor.
You want me to be pro tem?
Yeah, no.
No.
Or
Well,
what?
no, don't take that the wrong way, but
Oh,
Rochelle.
we need to elect the mayor pro tem,
Yes.
yes. So,
Go for
Let her
it.
do it.
okay, so I nominate Rochelle Topham to be the mayor pro tem for the council meeting tonight of, July 2025.
I'll
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Uh,
Grab your nameplate.
Thank you. There, anybody want to drink water? Pass them down. Anybody want water?
No, I've got Red Bull.
Okay, thank you.
You want a Red Bull?
Thank you, Chief.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Sorry about that. First, we are going to have, actually, let's excuse Mayor Halterman. She is with family tonight, and also Councilmember Downey. We need to excuse both of them. We are going to start with opening ceremonies by David Burton, and he will also lead us in the pledge.
Okay, thank Our Heavenly Father, we are indeed grateful today for the opportunity which we have to assemble here this evening in these favorable circumstances. We're grateful for our freedoms that we enjoy that enable us to have this opportunity. We're grateful for this community, and we pray for thy continual blessings upon this community, that we will be able to prosper and have peace and harmony in this community, that we may be able to enjoy the heritage and what has been provided for us for those who have gone before. We ask for thy Spirit to guide us this night as we conduct the business of the city, that we will be inspired and guided and have thy inspiration to do those things which we should, that are in the best interest of the city as a council and those citizens that reside here in this city. We are grateful for all that we have, and at this time, Heavenly Father, we petition thee and pray for thy blessings, that we may be blessed with moisture that we need to sustain it here and provide for those things that we stand in need of as far as our production of crops and gardens and have the betterment of this community and the environment of this community. Grateful for all thou does for us, and ask for these things, giving thee thanks for all our blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Would you please stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Burton, for that. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any declaration of conflicts or personal interest with any council members with any of the agenda items?
No.
No,
Nope.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Now, this next time is going to be for public comments. That's for anything that's not currently on the agenda. If you'd like to come up, voice any concerns about anything, and that will be for 3 minutes each. So come on up.
My name is Hans Frischknecht. I'm 91 West, 100 South. one way we could save some irrigation water is by turning off the timers after a big hail or rainstorm. I know they are rare, but it would make quite a difference. Also in the parks and at the cemetery, we don't need to grow mushrooms there. Something totally different we could turn off is the engine while parking at the post office. It would make life much easier for everybody. There are also a whole bunch of kids running around. They have their nose right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm David Burton, Parowan resident, Parowan council member. On June 26, 2025, I was unable to attend the city council meeting as I was in the hospital as a result of a stroke. The council in attendance at that meeting approved both the AGM development agreement and the AGM annexation. If I were able to be in attendance at that meeting, I would have voted against both the AGM development agreement and the AGM annexation. I ask that my dissenting vote be duly noted and made part of the record. The vote would not have been unanimous, as I would have voted against the AGM development agreement and the AGM annexation. I am not comfortable with approval before code and ordinances are developed and ratified, such code and ordinances specifying open space and parks, which ordinances are currently in the process of being developed and implemented. All infrastructure impact is a concern to me. I am uncomfortable with the possible acceleration of upgrades to any part of Parowan's infrastructure and its impact on existing citizens as a result of this development, especially water, sewer, and transportation. I am not comfortable that future possible roads were not identified specifically to be considered in development plans, leaving this to need and common sense. I know there are mechanisms in place and that I hope will be followed in the evolution of this development. I have concern as I was frustrated with the misunderstanding regarding the civic commercial designated area. Water is always concerning. I am grateful for our water ordinance and its vision. But note this, water rights are still paper and do not provide a source of water. These are only a few of my concerns as to why I was uncomfortable with the AGM development agreement and the AGM annexation. I could not go against my better judgment, therefore I would have voted against the AGM development agreement and the AGM annexation. Having said this, the council has approved this development agreement and annexation. It will move forward without my endorsement. Yeah, I will work even harder to ensure proper evolution of this project and protect the integrity, character, and heritage of Parowan, which I dearly love, along with the citizens I love and respect, who I represent and serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on. All right, we're moving down into our consent agenda items. These are approved with one motion. The first one is approval of City Council meeting minutes from June 26, 2025. The approval of the warrant register from July 7th, 2025, and approval of the financial statement for June 2025.
I propose we approve 5, 6, and 7 of the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. I do need to note in the action item, we need to table item number 9 because that is not ready yet. That is the adopt of the fiscal year 26 fee schedule. So can I have a motion to do that?
I move to table the action item number 9 on the action agenda. Do we need to do it for a certain date, or?
No, we'll
Just-
probably just move it to the next one. I think it'll be ready in 2 weeks.
For the next council meeting?
Thank you.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, action item number 8, possible approval of the city inspection contract for building inspection software.
Okay, as the council is aware, we are, sorry, I had to re-download. I had this open and my computer decided to do an update. Did not give me the option to tell it no. So, I'm pulling this back up. Okay, I'm gonna switch over the screen. We have talked about the city's evolution in transitioning Keith Naylor back in, not back, but into building permit. Keith has gone and he has all 4 of his residential certifications, and we've been working with the county about a transition period to transition the performance of building permits internally with the city instead of having the county do that. One of the things that's required for us to do that is the software. We have been kind of riding on the coattails of the county since it was their contract with, it was formerly called My City Inspector. Anybody who's built a house or is a contractor around here knows that, because that's what all of the municipalities use in southern Utah. Anyways, we needed to transition so to the city having its own My City Inspector contract. And that becomes the interface for all documentation, approvals, and reporting to the state, and all of that stuff that we're required to do. We didn't look at any other options, just because as we transition, we will have the county performing plan reviews and commercial building inspections and CBO duties, certified building official duties. And so we needed to be consistent with what the county has. Plus we can transition we can move all of the data over for the Parowan inspections that are in process. So we got a bid from the owner, Brady Fry, and it includes, she's estimating at around 100 permits on the permit count. The annual maintenance fees are $2,500 for doing that. There is a one-time upfront of $5,800 that we have to pay, and then it'll be just a recurring $2,500. We can do a 1-year, we can do a 3-year contract, which will lock that price in case the prices go up. And so we need to decide what we want to do there, but that is the proposal. So this was kind of a given that we needed to do this if we were going to transition. I did put money in the budget. When the budget was created, I didn't know how much the upfront would be, so I need to go back and check and see if we need to amend the budget for this first year with that upfront or not. I just guessed at what it was going to cost. One thing to point out is they have now evolved their software, and we can do subdivision submissions through this, which I didn't even realize was an option, and come to find out it is. We can do large capital projects. We can have manage all of that on submissions for that with documentation and so forth. Also, we can do business licenses with this software. So it has more capability than frankly what we need it for, but in all of those areas where that additional capability, we're doing it less efficiently right now with manual processes. So anyways, I guess that's a little bit of a side bonus.
Dan?
Yeah.
Will this need changes, Keith's position evolves? You know, as he works into this, the
No.
transition into this will always be needed,
Yep,
even for.
it'll always be needed. This is what Enoch, Bryan Head, the county, Cedar
Okay.
City use, at all levels. It's pretty sophisticated. When somebody wants to come in for a building permit, we actually just direct them online. They fill that out all online, and the system is automated. It kicks it over to us, and we look to, first of all, see if it's a complete application. If it is a complete application, then it automatically forwards it to the right people to start review. Once they get done with their review, it'll then forward it to the next person that needs to review things or submit things, different people in the organization,
Okay.
involving fees with the treasurer, involving public works director, involving the building official. And once the, building permit is issued, then it becomes the document where, all of the contractors, do all of their scheduling of the inspections. They can say, yep, I'm done, I'm ready for let's say they wanna have a plumbing inspection. They can indicate they're ready, and they can select the time on their building inspector's calendar. Building inspector goes out, looks at it, if it doesn't comply, he can take a picture of it, submit it through the software, and it'll email it immediately to the contractor and say, wasn't permitted because X, Y, Z, they can pull up the picture. And so it like shaves a lot of time off the process. That's all going on right now on the building inspection side right now with the county. It's just on the upfront side with the city, we have our pre-building permit process that we go through that has been fully analog, you know, anticipating this
So
eventually.
this will help through the application process and then filter it to the individuals that are responsible to make those
Yep.
decisions. Okay.
Yep, and a backup, so if they're out of town or on vacation, then their backup can review it. There's quite a tight timeline imposed by the state on this
Right.
process, and we have to report exactly how long it took us to do it,
Right.
to the state. This software lets us do that too, so.
Okay.
You've used this, Dave, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good.
On the
Pretty nice.
contractor end. The nice thing about this, Brady actually, she started in Ivans, I believe, as a permit tech inside the city, and developed the software for her own city. She owned it, and then she went and took it larger, got a programmer involved, and she has just since expanded the software. But it's a Southern Utah product that's just
So
growing.
is
and
this
growing.
competitive? I mean, or is there anybody else yet? It sounds like she's kind of a innovative type.
It is innovative. I'm sure there's other things that are coming out there that are similar. This has been really tailor-made for building permits and inspections in Utah.
So as far as cost, we don't, have anything to compare it to.
We don't, and it's under the threshold that we would be required to go and get additional bids.
Huh.
But we wouldn't even wanna consider it because we need to be, it's like switching between the standard and a metric system. We wouldn't wanna have, because we are it's still interlaced with the county, we need to be on the same software, at least until the point we are completely independent, and then if that point we wanna go to a different software, we could consider.
But we're not required to get bids.
No, it's below the threshold.
Okay, I missed that, sorry.
And I like that we can do, streamline other office things like the business licenses.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other further discussion?
Do you guys wanna do a 3-year term? You wanna just go year to year?
You think it's gonna fluctuate that much?
I don't see anything changing in the next, well, for one, the process for Keith to take on the commercial and the plan review is a lot more intensive than the residential, probably a couple of years. And at that point, we could probably, if we wanted to go a different direction, we probably could. We're still gonna have to have the county as our certified building official until he gets the requisite experience. That's a new Utah law this year, so.
So
And I
that's
think
gonna
that's like
take
6 years.
more than 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
So we
and I don't know if that means we need to stay on the same software at the point where we're doing everything in-house but that.
So if we're gonna have to, evolve over 2 years to 3 years, you probably ought to do it for a 3-year period.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
At least the 3 makes sense to me.
So, well, I'll make a motion, if there is no other discussion, to, approve the, contract for the building inspection software for a period of 3 years.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, action item number 10, annual
10 minutes to
approval
get
of
back.
business beer license renewals for fiscal year 25-26. Callie did point out at the beginning that the Iron County Fair was mistakenly left off of this, and so we need to include the Iron County Fair.
No beer at the fair.
No beer at the fair. Chief, you okay with that? No beer at the fair? Okay. No. All right, so tonight we have a list of them. The ones that are checked off in red, which are High Voltage Barbecue, On the Run, previously was KB Express, Maverick, Southern Country, which is the Chevron, and then TA, and then also the Iron County Fair. The two that are on there have not responded back to Connie, and so we will do those at a different time.
What about these new businesses like Terribles?
Well,
They'll have to,
Just,
They're
Well,
gonna
just
have to
have to
get,
come in.
they're gonna have to get their permit,
okay,
part of their
at the
business
time.
license permit process, yeah.
Pizza Barn doesn't want one?
well,
They could be gone.
they could be out of town.
Okay.
And then the other one at the top, the Family Dollar.
Family
hasn't
Dollar?
gotten back to her yet, so we'll probably just have to do those at a different time.
Okay.
I propose that we approve the business beer license renewals for fiscal year 2025 to 2026, for the ones that are shown and checked off, including Iron County Fair.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, this next, action item number 11 is, moving the next city council meeting to July 31st, because our next meeting would be on, Pioneer Day.
Right, and that day the city employees have off anyway.
Oh.
So,
So that makes sense,
I think that's,
kind of a given.
yeah, well, if nobody,
Or-
if nobody has any discussion or any, you know, problem with it, I move to move the next city council meeting from Pioneer Day, July 24th to July 31st.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. All right, moving on to the work agenda. We are going to have a presentation by the Chamber of Commerce, which will be from Cade Bryant.
So, my name is Cade Bryant. I am the new president of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to give you kind of a state of the chamber, a status of, you know, what we're working on and where we're at in good grace and thanks to you guys for the $7,500 contribution to our executive director position. A couple of recognitions, or one main recognition that we've gotten recently is our Main Street America program. We had 2 representatives in Ogden a few months ago go to a, I believe it was I think it was a statewide with all Main Street Americas within the state, and we were recognized as the only Main Street in Utah that doesn't have any vacancies on their Main Street and in the business corridor. We do have vacancies just outside of the Main Street corridor that we designated, but our Main Street is full, and so that's a proud thing to be aware of, and we're thanks for that recognition from them. As well as our Main Street committee has found good progress on a grant that will give us wayfinder signs. That is going to be placed around different intersections, you know, kind of by Maverick and Chevron, wayfinder signs to say, you know, Bryan, head this way, Main Street this way, kind of a thing. And so that It's usually a 3-year process, but it seems like the progress is going pretty well, and we're about 1.5 years into that. Tourism dollars that we've been, made available to us from the Iron County Tourism Bureau are as follows: $5,000 for Winter Wonderland, $5,000 for social media boosts as long as it's tourism related, which that is new. We've always gotten $5,000 for Winter Wonderland, but we've sought additional funds to be able to have tourism ads running throughout different areas. $7,000 times 2 for the billboards, signs for the Sweet Tour, or so for the cinnamon roll and Sweet Tour. But we've been asked by Maria Twitchell to rebrand that campaign and do a revamp of it, so that's gonna be in the works. $5,000 plus for a mural to showcase local businesses and tourist hotspots, and then on top of that, $1,000 to be able to print out, tear off maps of that same mural to spread those around. We're always made available for other funding, and we've been stretched out a hand from Maria to say, you know, if you have other events or other things that we plan, that we can reach out for additional funding. We were awarded most recently $1,000 for the upcoming art tour. And there was a request from Maria that we somehow merge our Christmas in the Country and our hometown holiday show. I don't think that necessarily means it has to physically merge, but some sort of like branding merge of that. And so we'll be reaching out to the town and figuring out a way that we can merge that event to be more cohesive. A couple of quick things are we have 66 paying members, with a few very good potential ones once they're up and running, like Ace and then, you know, the barbecue spot behind the hotel, and, you know, there's still room for growth. There's not only that, but the merging that we've had with Bryan Head as a chamber, because we are now the Parowan and Bryan Head Chamber area, Chamber of Commerce, that we can really expand our numbers and find growth that way. And our executive director contract that brings me here today is up for renewal, and we've opened that job for hiring, or contracting, I should say, to any applicants that want to contract out that position. And so that position is a position that pays jointly the $7,500 from you guys and $7,500 from Bryan Head Town, so $15,000 a year. Requires 10 to 15 hours a week, and we have a job description there that really is to provide clerical work, advertising help, event help, that someone that has boots on the ground to go out and do some of the things that we need, that us as volunteers, every member of the board and every member of the chamber, we're there as volunteers, and so we get stretched thin. And so that's really the use of this executive director position, and so that is available for contracting out for a second term of a year. So that position is open now, and it'll be closed by our next board meeting at the beginning of next month. So
Do they do that, like, for so many years? Or can they stay on as the executive director as long as they're not getting burnt out, or?
they can stay on as the executive director. We finished the 1 year. Our current executive director was the treasurer before, the secretary before. She's been involved in the chamber for a long time, and so she's been burned out, not just from the position, but
She just
because
did a
of her time.
really, she did a really great job, so I was kinda sad to see, when I saw that online, that it was opened up again. I was really sad to see
Yeah,
it not be
she's,
there anymore.
yeah, she's a little tired and she has, you
I
know,
bet.
things, it's not necessarily the highest paying position, you know, out there, and so,
Right.
you know, there may be some better uses for her time to go and do different things, but the position is in my opinion, a very well-paying job for what it requires, and so it's a very good opportunity for anyone in our town or Bryan Head, and, you know, if we have to contract out to Cedar City, but someone locally, it's a great, opportunity to make over $1,000 a month and put in a few hours. So Lindsay was really great, but, yeah.
She's got a lot going on.
She's got a lot going on. So, we've already had 4 or 5 applicants that we actually, think are very highly qualified, potentially overly qualified, and so we're excited about that. And, yeah, this is new for me as being the president of the chamber, but I'm here to give my time and my energy to making the town better. So we have, lastly, in the works of a strategic planning meeting, ready to set and really do kind of a relook and re-overhaul of the chamber itself, and just kinda noticing, you know, what are we doing that's important, and what are we doing that, I guess I should rephrase it, what are we doing that is a level 7 out of 10 of importance, and what are we doing that's a level 3 out of 10 of importance, and kind of filter out the weeds there and figure out what we should focus on and what's benefiting our 2 communities the most. And so we have we're gonna be having a strategic planning meeting in August, and that's where we will, work through those things. And so we'll most likely invite a member of the Parowan town and Bryan town to be a part of that and help us through, that strategic planning meeting. So, yeah, that's my report. Is there any other questions?
You mentioned, when is this job, gonna be, it'll be posted, but then when is it gonna be closed?
So it is posted now,
Okay.
and it'll be closed, like, we'll make a new hire by our next board meeting.
Okay.
So our hiring committee will make a recommendation to the board for our next, meeting, which is the first Wednesday of next month, which would be the 6th.
Okay.
So it'll we'll make a final decision on the 6th after our, hiring committee makes their recommendation. And I believe, John, you're on that hiring committee?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. We've asked,
That's why you're asking.
we've asked, a member of Bryan Head Town and a member of Parowan Town to be a part of that committee along
They asked
with
me if
2 of
it
our
would be
board
appropriate if you did it, and I was like, yeah,
members.
why
Yeah,
not?
Yes, I'm on.
Why not? Could
Any
be-
staff or any council, I think, is appropriate, so, yeah, so that's my report, so thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you
Thank
for, we're just so appreciative of the chamber and everything that you guys do for our town. And I love that the rebranding with Parowan and Bryan Head, 'cause I never understood why Cedar City, Bryan Head, and Parowan just kinda was, maybe I was just sad that Parowan's name wasn't on there, maybe. But thank you for everything that you guys do. I know that you guys are all volunteers and you guys work really hard, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right. The next is the discussion of Prime West Development LC, the annexation agreement.
Okay, so, just update the council as to the process. We had a public hearing, on this, and our process requires an annexation agreement to be considered. So, council directed staff to, come up with an annexation agreement using recent template. And, so I did that and sent it to our attorney and sent it to the applicant. And the applicant looked at it and said, it's good, I like it. And, let's move forward with a vote. And, of course, Dallas is here to represent, the applicant. The council had received this, you know, in your packet, but, I do have a summary of what is in the agreement. I don't know if you've had a chance to read through it. There are some requirements that are, somewhat significant, and this isn't a small annexation, so, we felt like that would be appropriate. Some of the things, was determined that we could handle at the subdivision process. Other things probably need to be handled at the annexation process, and so they're in this agreement. I do have those things loaded that you wanted to have on cue to put up, Dallas. Not sure if you wanted to start out and have anything that you wanted to say before we kind of look through more of the salient factors of the agreement.
Yeah, so I figured that we were probably gonna maybe do this like we had done the previous one, if we were gonna go through line by line. I know Larry had reviewed it, and then I went through it earlier in the week and talked with Larry about it. There was really only one of the items on here. Everything else looked fine from my perspective. I think Larry was good with the one that I wanted to go over in detail was 7.8, which talks about roads, but however you wanna do it, if we wanna go through from top to bottom or hit the high notes, but that was one that I wanted to try to get some more information on.
Yeah, so just to let everybody know what was put in the agreement, we have a similar issue to, I don't wanna mix annexations, but I thought that it was very kind of interestingly poetic. 200 North was required to be improved for the Meisner subdivision. Well, this is the other end of 200 North, and 200 North is lacking, I guess, in road width, and there's no sidewalk, and it tapers as it gets farther and farther west towards the freeway, and basically becomes, I mean, it's functional for the subdivision that's out there. I know that there's some that live in that subdivision that's already there, Sky Ranch, that they feel like it isn't sufficient. I've had more than one resident say, when is the city gonna put in another ingress egress from our subdivision, and wondered about us putting in a frontage road, and I said, well, that'll happen as development happens. But here we are, development is happening, that road is pretty insufficient, and one of the concerns is if we have a very narrow road, there's no sidewalk, and we put in 50 acres of property that is zoned medium to high residential zoning, chances are we're gonna have a lot of pedestrian traffic along there too. So we put in here that that 200 North needed to be improved from the point of the development. So this is off-site development under the subject of off-site development. 200 North would need to be improved from the point of development with the annexation area up into 600 West. At that point, you get into a much wider right-of-way. You spread out in different directions, and so forth. And then the number two was that another point of ingress egress needed to be installed, with the concern being just the fact that we have one mode of ingress egress. It's already serving that subdivision. We don't have this defined anywhere in our code. How many residential units triggers an automatic second ingress egress, and so wanted to put it in the annexation agreement so that was settled. I didn't get in and specify what road that needed to be, just that it needed to comply with the city's master transportation plan. That is one of the things that Dallas had asked for me to load. So that's the background. Dallas, what do you wanna discuss in regards to that?
So, maybe we can just blow that up. Yeah, there we go. So, I guess there's a couple points of contention on my end, is just that it says improve, and I'm not sure what improve means where 200 is an existing road. I don't know, it did say curb gutter sidewalk on one side, but where it's already a dedicated right-of-way with a improved road, although some portions of it may be substandard. I just wanted to have a discussion on the basis for requiring it. When I did the engineering on Painted Hills, and the imagery that's underneath this is old, so you can't see where the RV park's been built, but that was constructed not to full width, but it was constructed with a city cross section, so that ties right into there. And so I think there's a couple different discussion points. Is one, obviously, to have a project, you've got to have a mode of ingress and egress, and I didn't know if the city was just looking at this from the development agreement and saying, hey, 200 North is the most logical existing right-of-way that's there. But I think there's some assumptions on our end that we could work together with Painted Hills and get a right-of-way dedicated, and that could be our first access point into this property. At which point, I know that the frontage road, which is shown as the dashed yellow one, I believe nothing's obviously set in stone, but I believe there's some goodwill of potentially tying that one in as well by the new ACE, and that's also some off-site, but working with some of the landowners there. And so on the AJM, we had gotten to a point with the city in that development agreement where we said, hey, we need one ingress, egress, or one access point for the first 80 lots, and then the 81st lot would trigger the second. But I guess the difference between the two in my mind is that we were creating new roads, where this is an existing one that's in a city right-of-way. Part of me is questioning why we're improving a city road unless it doesn't meet a 26-foot asphalt width. And then the question I had on improve is that an overlay? Is that remove and rebuild the entire road? Is it take core samples along the road and determine what it's structurally built to now versus the traffic index that it needs to be? And so there was just a lot, but the way that it's written in here, outside of whatever the asphalt widening to put in curb gutter and sidewalk on one side of the road, is that ends up being a little over, I think, half a mile of improving an existing road. And what does that improving mean? Is that an inch of asphalt overlay? Is it ripping the whole thing out?
So, and I can't answer, obviously I don't know off the top of my head as far as what the road is constructed of beneath what is there.
Right.
We do know that it is not wide enough.
Okay.
And there's no sidewalk. Whether or not curb and gutter would be required or not, but there's no sidewalk, and it's not wide enough. Certainly not to pass a lot of additional traffic. I know the sidewalk issue will be a problem just because you're going to have, you know, this is medium and high density. You're going to have families in there with kids walking towards school. That's the only route, that 200 North, to get directly into the school. So if we don't do something, we're going to have a problem as soon as you start having kids out there walking along there, where we have more traffic on an already narrow road. So at a minimum, I would think that we would need to have it fit a profile for that street, which is a local road section, and for width. Now, does that mean that it needs to be milled and rebuilt, or just widened and an overlay put on top so that it is, you know, consistent? I don't know. We could explore that. The two concerns were width and sidewalk, from my perspective, drafting a document from scratch.
And so I think typically, and this is just broadly speaking, not to, because Parowan obviously has their own ordinances and all of that, but generally when you talk about putting in an off-site road to meet an ingress egress, you would look at 26 feet of asphalt based on really the fire code. And so that would be something that, if that does end up being, I guess part of the reason for the discussion is, if we were able to work something out with Painted Hills and that was become a dedicated 60-foot road or 66-foot road and improved, and that was an access for us. We could consider 200 North as a secondary access. And so if we were to shoot the limits of asphalt and say, hey, it's greater than 26, but as it narrows going to the west towards our property, I think it's a no-brainer that we have to obviously improve everything within ours. And then when we tie in, if we're talking about we've got to get it widened to that 26, to me that makes sense. But I guess part of the part that I'm struggling with is just it's an existing city road that's been built, and then we're going to improve someone else's frontage because I don't know if there's standard. I'm not aware of any standards in the cities.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, we definitely need that other access by Painted Hills. You know, I mean, to me, that's first priority to go back in there.
So I just pulled up Google Earth. That road appears to be, if you can, sorry, I'm just trying to get my pointer back here.
But isn't it similar as far as the east side of 200 North that you were going to, or, you know, AGM's going to improve? That's very similar to that situation on the west side of 200 North.
So I
You're about 20 feet of asphalt right there.
Okay.
That, any way you slice it or any way you label it, that road is gonna take a lot of traffic, just because, I mean, as these new residents go towards Cedar for jobs or shopping, obviously they're gonna take a different access. As they go anywhere into town to take kids to school, do shopping, go to events, whatever they may be, they're gonna take this road. So it is gonna see additional traffic, and it's pretty obvious that 19 feet, 20 feet, if you're, you know, lucky, if you're driving right on the edge, is a substandard road. As you get farther to the east, sorry, I believe it's a little bit wider as you get over here. And when there's additional so you're looking at about 30 feet of asphalt here towards the mouth of that subdivision.
Yeah, my grandbabies live right there, so it's spooky right there.
It hits home. Now, eventually, we do have, we have a master planned, frontage road, which will connect into 400 and come down through here. And that'll be more of a primary, road for people that live in there to get into town, to this minor collector that's 400 North. And this is still just a local road section, so, but a local road section and another local road section, this thing that goes through Painted Hills is, I don't know if it's up to standard. I can just look at the width, and it's barely 26.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, I think we have I think it was a 60-foot right-of-way.
Yep.
But we built the 26-foot based on the fire code, and we built it to the city section.
Okay, good.
But we didn't formally dedicate a right-of-way, so in order for that to be converted, we'd have to work with those guys to get it dedicated as a right-of-way, and then whatever other improvements were required. But it was kind of intentionally left short so that whether it was this property tying on, or I forget what the family is to the east of that road, but just so that yeah, just so there would be some kind of participation.
It seems like there's one little square here that
Yep.
the Holyoaks would have to be consulted. So what you're talking about, should this be the second point of ingress egress, you're talking effectively of only having two local road sections, which is gonna be your smallest bare minimum road, which, you know, is that sufficient? You know, one of the things in here is required a traffic study for the subdivision. Not required to be done before the annexation, at least the way it's written now. Obviously, if there is some cooperation with the property owner to the west of putting in this frontage road, the frontage road would be a wider road. Obviously, it's gonna be able to have a higher capacity, but the way it's written right now is just that 200 would be improved with that vague language. My thought was the city's cross-section, and then specifically referring to a sidewalk, curb gutter.
Which side of the road did you ask for the sidewalk on?
Didn't specify.
I know which side I want.
So, but we didn't specify that, but basically thinking that this would be a primary method of a lot of pedestrian traffic, and certainly need to have a decent road for traffic to travel on, and then any other ingress egress that's compatible with the
Dan,
plan. Yeah.
may I get an answer to my question?
Remind me.
What is the difference between the east side of 200 North and the west side of 200 North? We required the annexation, AGM, to improve 200 North over on the east side, and then they're saying that's...
Oh, you mean the specific difference? I thought you were
Well,
talking
no.
metaphorically.
Well, metaphorically, I mean, what's the difference between requiring an improvement on that side versus requiring an improvement on the other side?
Justification is the same from a city's perspective.
Yeah, that's
So,
what I was, yeah.
I guess
Capacity and pedestrian traffic.
from a metaphorical standpoint, I guess the difference in my mind, or the reason why we committed to it on that one was, because of the park on the south side of 200 and the city's concern for having a designated sidewalk for people going to and from the park to get into there, because like I said, in other places, typically when we talk about having an off-site access road, you're looking at providing the minimum asphalt cross-section that's required by fire, which is at 26 feet. But I was under the impression that council was concerned that with the amount of foot traffic and kids that were traveling to and from the ballpark, that we wanted to have a sidewalk on one side, and that's how we ended up on not fully improving the road, but improving the asphalt and then providing curb gutter sidewalk on one of the sides, which on that one would be the south side of 200. And then similarly on City View Drive, where that one we were creating a new road, we had said there's a safety issue as far as pedestrian traffic getting from the south side of the fairgrounds over to down and around that existing subdivision by the cemetery. And so in my mind, that was the difference for that project, was that we were up against very high pedestrian uses versus a typical subdivision.
But realistically, you're talking the same ingress, egress, 2 points of access, and mainly one, 'cause 200 North's gonna be the road that's used mostly, not City View Drive. So, really, I think the need is similar.
Well, and we were concerned about pedestrians and kids
Mhm.
for the subdivision as well, not just the park. In this case, I think you're gonna have the demographics, I'm just guessing, probably gonna have a little bit more heavy on the kids side. Potentially as many residential units in here as that other subdivision, so I think the justification is very similar. I mean, the reality of it is that we already know in our transportation master plan, we need to widen some roads within Old Town, Parowan, and have some sidewalks for kids to safely get to school. And I think that this is gonna, both of these is gonna expose that we have some narrow roads within. And, you know, an off-site improvement, you know, only goes so far of what we require. What's a fair requirement, and I guess fair is defined between you guys and the developer to negotiate what's fair. But
The other thing that I just noticed on the master plan is that from the transportation master plan is there's a lot going on, specifically in this area. Maybe we could flip back to that one, Dan. But it's not clear to me how these roads it looks like these roads are all gonna be reconfigured somewhat with the frontage road, and then if you can maybe just pan a little bit to the right, to the east. So it looks like that horseshoe subdivision is gonna have some kind of connector road that comes that gray dash, and then there's obviously gonna be the yellow, the heavy dashed one that ties in to the purple. And so when we talk about the length that from 'cause the way that it's written, it also says from the first phase, the 200 north is required from, basically from anywhere within our site. So if we start on the far west side, we've gotta connect a road. So, for instance, if we were able to work together with the Painted Hills folks and develop adjacent to that road, the way this is written currently is it says, that's all fine and good, but you've gotta connect all the way over to 200 with your first phase, and then you've gotta do over a half mile of road improvements all the way to 600, is at least the way I had read it.
The way it was intended was that there would be, as part of the first subdivision application, both would need to be done. The improvements shall be required within the first application for subdivision within the annexation area. The improvements that have been talked about here.
So that's quite a burden to have to overcome as far as, so we've gotta secure a second access, have an improved second access, we've gotta improve 200 north within our site, we've gotta do a half mile of off-site improvements to what scope isn't defined yet, but the way it's written is basically build it out with curb gutter sidewalk on at least one side. And this is a 51 acre, so I mean, that's a lot to do with the first phase without knowing how big the phase is gonna be. And so I guess the first thing I would ask for is probably to some kind of tiered, similar to the previous one that had been approved, to an 80 lot on the first. Obviously, it's subject to traffic modeling that's in here, so if there was something that came back in a model that said, nope, this area is below the necessary level of service and it requires 2 from the jump, but otherwise, I'd say we'd like to try to get 1 to 80, just because that was the benchmark previously set. But then, back to the discussion of to what extent are we doing 200 north?
Yeah, 'cause unfortunately, I think 200 will be the most used road.
I agree.
Definitely.
You almost have to count those houses that are already there,
There's 70 of them
Exactly.
and 6
Yeah.
lots still.
cause
And
you're
how
at
mu-
the end of a bottleneck is my point right now.
Yeah.
How many homes are we potentially looking at putting in there? Do you know?
I don't, because I have not gone through the rural done right and seen what the upper threshold is. We've played around with some layouts on it, but there's a lot of factor, 'cause just with how many dash roads go through here, I mean, 100 north doesn't really exist right now, but that's shown as something that could happen also. And then there's a road that goes through the north end of Painted Hills that obviously isn't gonna go through an RV park, so whether that needs to be pulled up and put into ours, there's kind of a lot going on here depending on what is actually gonna be required by the city when we get to that point. Do you see what I mean by that kinda, could you move your cursor down just a little bit, Dan?
You're talking about right
Yeah, that one.
And for those that are not city planners in the audience and on the, our yellow roads is a higher classification, that's a minor collector. The black and white, any road that's solid on the map is already built. Any road that is dotted is a road that is not yet built. The problem with this, is also the city limits are a dotted black line, so those aren't roads, that's current city limits, but you see kind of a slightly grayer dotted road, that's a local road section. Our local road sections are important that we get circulation and things like that. Typically with a development like this, we're gonna give them a lot more latitude to move local road sections around. As long as we can accomplish the circulation, we can get east to west, north to south movement. The yellow, minor collectors there's been a lot of thought put into by our engineer, Jones and the Mill, that did this. So we're not gonna wanna deviate very much at all from the path of that. I mean, maybe we deviate 50 feet so that it works for their layout, but it pretty much needs to align, how it ties into 400, how it comes through this property. You'll notice that the design in here, one of the aspects of this, this isn't a great, resolution. I could pull up the other and we could zoom in on it. They had actually, planned on 200 North, scooping up into to hit on perpendicular
Yep.
this frontage road, and that's not just, they thought a lot about that. That's how they had envisioned this, being tied in. And same thing with this tie-in here, which would be, I don't know, down through, what is that? Anyways.
And so,
And-
and that's kind of the point for the discussion tonight, is just say that there's multiple minor collectors through here, and Dan's right as far as they've curled 200 in, they've curled that other yellow one in. You can see the curl kind of on the west side of Painted Hills, but generally from a sight distance standpoint, you always tie into those perpendicular, and so that's another thing where you look at where those two yellows tie together and we get that kind of funky looking triangle. And so from a layout standpoint, depending on how we have to do it, there's kind of a lot of inefficiencies when you have really sharp angles like that tying in. But
So I guess the question though is, as you have pointed out, I think everybody now understands the logic of requiring a second egress on day one, just that we're already at the end of a bottleneck. The question is if they were to build, my question, from what Dallas has said, if they were to start phase one on the south end of the property only, is there some number of homes in a phase one that you would be comfortable with, one egress for that, if it didn't
Doesn't tie over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that I'm concerned is that we have some future annexations to the east along that freeway that's gonna impact this also.
You're talking about over here?
Where's your no, back up, where are you? No, up, keep going east.
Yeah.
Like
Up
right
in
over
here,
right?
yeah, those, up through there.
So this is annexed.
Well, okay, the one up in the corner, I'm sorry, right there.
This right here is,
Yeah.
we're waiting for an annexation petition.
Mhm. But that could have, you need to take that in consideration for future impact.
Well, that would actually relieve concern. If that builds and this builds, having actually a minor collector tying into this
Mhm.
development would be good. That would actually relieve some of the problem.
On
We
200.
have to look at this thing in a vacuum and say, those may or may not happen,
Right.
and if they don't, what are we approving?
Mhm.
I guess the other just
Okay.
point to mention on that is what was different on the other 200 and on City View from the previous was that we were up against city-county parcels that we know are not going to develop in the sense that they're gonna be required to trigger improvements along there. 200 North in this instance we'd be putting in another frontage along another private property owner's frontage that they should be obligated to at whatever point they do develop. And so, I don't know if the city does reimbursement agreements. I don't know, it sounds like, was
We
that
do.
one recently annexed?
So, yeah, let me just address that real quick. This property, people are familiar with, they've gone out and recently grubbed the property, with a cat. They haven't approached the city with any application for annexation, for development. But obviously the fact that they're grubbing off all of the brush, maybe they're wanting to do something, I don't know. Certainly not gonna guess, 'cause they haven't approached the city. But if they were to approach the city for a development today, they would be required to improve their part of that road as well. So, yeah, that makes sense. This piece right here is currently almost proposed for annexation. They've gone through the process with the county. We're waiting for them to submit an application to the city or a petition to the city. So we'll see on that. That one really only touches 200 North right here.
Mhm. But like you say, if those come in, this,
They're gonna have,
frontage road along that
Yeah.
freeway is gonna have to be required.
it's gonna have to be, well, the frontage road is gonna have to be required through their property, but they're
Yeah.
also gonna have to improve 200
Right.
where they border it. So, if we require them to make improvements, these guys to make improvements to 200, to Dallas's point, we probably ought to be on the north side or the south side, knowing that these guys are gonna have to improve the north side.
Mhm.
And then you'll have an actual functional street.
The way it would, so I alluded to my preference, if we were required to do this, I would pick the north side, because the south side's gonna be significantly more expensive to,
But if you
And-
did the north
yeah.
side and then they come in later, then yeah, there's a,
they would just curb cut and put in their cross gutters and,
Well, and like I own a piece right there on that north side, so like I would help Larry out and
yeah,
pay my portion across,
not everyone's like you though.
so.
But how I look at it, if we put the curb and gutter and sidewalk along the 70 homes, I know it'd be a little bit, well, quite a bit more, but it would benefit instead of having little humans walking across the street and then going to school. 'Cause there's a lot of foot traffic and bike traffic every morning during school. I live pretty close. 'Cause a lot of those homes,
So
do have
is the U-shaped road, is that one, does that one, that looks like it has sidewalk on it,
yeah, it does,
right?
Yeah, 750.
I believe. Looks like it is tied in.
Yeah, there's sidewalks all the way across
Is it
that
all the way
one.
across this property too?
Yeah,
There you
all
go.
through Sky Ranch.
But I agree, John, even coming off from this proposed subdivision and the existing houses, that south side's gonna be more accessible and more safe than the north
Yeah.
side, yes.
You may gain enough width from going, your normal math of center line out and putting in curb gutter and sidewalk. That asphalt width may be sufficient, of course, by the time you park a car, maybe not. Out here, it's pretty thin, but
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
exactly what the design would produce if you surveyed that, but.
Yeah, it would cut his costs down if he only has to go to that
I
portion.
mean, if you look
right?
at it here, and you this is where we actually have a wide enough road. If you extend that, you're gonna be filling in this.
Do they know where the exact property lines are surveyed on
I don't know
that
if
street?
there's survey points there, but
Yeah.
I have some on my side.
We might have covered this in the previous one, but is there, where this is an existing city road, is there reimbursement for improving master plan roadways?
we do not have that.
There's no transportation impact fees?
We don't have any set yet.
Because the other thing that so we've obviously surveyed the parcel that's being annexed. We didn't do any survey along this right of way, but the other thing is that there's pretty substantial power lines, I think on the north side for sure, and then I can see the power poles on there on the south side, but you start talking about, hopefully those are not in the right of way, but they probably are, and so if we're talking about now we've got a underground, that, you talk about almost exponential on improving that, and where there's another property that was that property recently annexed on the north side of 200? It's been in for a while.
Yeah, it's been in for a while,
yeah.
before my time.
But I guess that's kind of where I am saying, I think our preference would be, hey, if there's not the asphalt width that's necessary to meet the fire code, then we can widen it, whether they're getting close to doing some kind of land development application. But it's just, to do a half mile of off-site is expensive, and it seems like,
Well, it
as
depends
far as
on what it is, obviously. If you're extending the road 10 feet in one section and put an overlay, that's one thing. Further down, it's 5 feet. If you're, like, to your point, removing and replacing power lines, then it can climb. The answer to that is, we don't know. I'm guessing there's gonna be power conflicts on the north side, 'cause I've been out there, on a fence issue, and I remember those power lines being out there pretty far. But I don't know what they look like going through there. But we don't know.
So does there need to be some kind of survey?
Well, I guess the question is if the petitioner does not want to accept these terms until that's known, we can do that.
Mm.
If the petitioner's comfortable moving forward as is with that unknown, then we can consider moving forward. I mean, that's really up to the petitioner.
Well, I think what I'm trying to get at is what are we defining as improvements on 200? From council's perspective to for us as the applicant to evaluate. So is it that the existing road may not be wide enough, so it needs to be widened to 26 feet? Is the road as it's constructed currently completely substandard and it needs to be the whole thing needs to be ripped out and rebuilt? Are we talking about just widening some asphalt and putting curb gutter and sidewalk on one side? Are we just widening it enough to get 26, and then when the north side comes in, when they do a development, they improve the north side? If we call Painted Hills the low-hanging fruit, and we secure a right-of-way and access there with the first phase of this subdivision, at what point is 200 triggered, and then to what extent is it triggered?
Because my concern is if we put 80-some homes there and we don't have this 200, as a parent standpoint, I'm not sending my kids walking up Holyoke to school.
No. They're not going.
So I don't know that it matters where you start with phase one. I think they both need to be done. At least 200.
Well, if you start in phase one and it doesn't access 200 at all, and then until they reach that second half, let's say, then they have to improve 200 at that point. As long as it's not being used, it can't be touched. I don't see a problem with phase one just starting up, coming out of Painted Hills and going up to it. But until like 200, it's not good. And as far as it is, like, you need to have one sidewalk, I think that ties all the way through for the safety of these kids, just people, and making the street safe when that phase happens. But we'd have to obviously see how bad is that street, so.
And how far is it from that potential where we think the sidewalk stops to their property?
I was just gonna ask that question.
Oh, yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
1350, give or take.
Quarter.
But from where it's written in here, how far is it from there to 600 west?
Yeah, it's written in here that would go clear to 600 west,
Yeah.
so you'd have to add from there to there.
Yeah.
The way it's
Is there sidewalk all along there?
No.
No,
just
like
Sky
this
Ranch.
little
Just
portion.
Sky Ranch.
Yeah.
1350 plus another 450, that's 1800.
Which that's just the way that looks from the imagery.
Yeah, this
That looks like a pretty crazy intersection.
Yeah, it goes into a mess right there.
this
It is a hot mess.
fairly up-to-date imagery, but there hasn't been any sidewalk done since then.
No, it's like we need to
2024.
abandon this and put.
Yeah, this intersection, this whole intersection will
Yeah, we need to.
evolve
Oh.
as development happens. 600 west will go through,
And then we
and
can
this
take
road's
care of
gonna
this
be,
mess.
abandoned.
Okay.
So you will end up with more of a true
Four-way.
four-way there
It's a mess right
in the future.
Is that where you live, right there?
John's
We'll put a
right there.
we'll put a circle right there for John.
To your backyard. John?
But so I guess from riding it to 600 west, where does that tie to? Does that tie to the road that's getting vacated, or does that tie all the way around the corner to the more north-south 600 west?
Yeah, you gotta find a stopping point.
Well, this is 600 west. I don't think this is.
Okay, that's where I had done it. I thought it was like .54. Thought it was a little over half a mile but I didn't count for the portion that has some in there. So you're 2100.
Yep.
Then you gotta go to path to do multiple nodes.
There you go. No points to delete, we can all see points. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're gonna use subtraction. So 24, call it 2,500, subtract 500, so 2,000.
2,000.
And I guess part of the concern just coming around that curve too is that if that's, I guess we could, if that's what was agreed upon, but we would put those improvements in and then they would likely get ripped out when that gets reconfigured.
Yeah, I'd just give it a stopping point, like right there at Lovell's house.
Yeah.
Like
that
right
thing-
there at the corner.
I think Lovell's house like sits on a property line.
I think
So,
it
like,
does too.
It's pretty messed up.
Yeah, we can change that.
'Cause I would be fine not making them improve it around the corner.
Right.
Yeah, like just stop it right there and
Right
call
here.
it a
Just
day
stop it like
till
right here.
it continues again.
Because if that's gonna, well, who knows when that's gonna get improved, but
What's the pedestrian path beyond that point?
Go straight south,
Nothing.
straight down that road.
straight down to the school?
Is there a sidewalk there?
Nope,
No,
it's a wider right-of-way.
it is wide.
There's a sidewalk on the north side, halfway there,
Mhm.
2 of the blocks.
We would let Larry go all the way to the school if he'd like.
Right. We have the same problem on the other annexation. There's gonna be some call for an improvement there pretty soon. I guess the other thing to consider if we say a phase 1 that's not near 200 doesn't have to have 2 access points immediately, what happens if there's phase 1 and then the property is sold to somebody else and then they come in and try to do it, you know, we're
Can't you tie it to the property?
telling them, you have to put this improvement in. I mean, the nice thing about the first annexation, I mean, I get that it's a lot of money to spend. I don't know how large typically these things phase out nowadays, or what the intent is to go, how many phases through here, but if one phase is significant enough to do all of those improvements, you know, it makes sense, but I don't know, I guess that council just needs to feel how comfortable they are. What the intent is, we're being asked to make a decision and make some recommendations based on a developer, I'm not implying anything, but is essentially holding their cards close to their chest. So we're trying to think through possible scenarios and make sure that the public is protected in how we write this agreement.
Well, I think this agreement's the same as the previous one, which is it gets recorded and runs with the property, so
It's true.
whether we do a first phase that ties in off painted, and then whoever, if someone purchased it and the 200 connection wasn't in there, it'll be, this runs with the title.
Yeah, it has to go with it,
So,
so.
and I think there's a couple different spots in here that it says that.
It does, and I think depending on how many homes you allow, you could make a situation where you develop the low-hanging fruit, and then the other part's gonna be very expensive. It's sold, that isn't necessarily a known fact, and they come in and say, what? I have to do what to put in this development? And then the city has to be the bad guy. I always have to be the bad guy, so I hate stuff like that. But
There's another, I guess, scenario too, that depending on what happens on the north side of 200, where the property that's already annexed, and there's another that comes in, that
very true.
that becomes substantially less of a burden.
Yep.
And less important, because the city's going to require their improvement of the north side along their entire frontage.
Yeah, you just hope to get help, you know?
Yep. And to be clear, I haven't heard of anything. Obviously they've done some dirt work. Sorry, weed abatement.
Prairie dog attraction.
So yeah, what does the council think?
I like the way that it's written already. But I would give a concession not to go around the corner. Like stop it at Lovell's house, or the house on the corner.
I think part of the discussion still needs to be, involve density. Because until that's totally solidified, that has a influence on this.
Do you know what those densities off the top of your head are, Dan, as far as what R2 and R3 allow now?
Yeah. For a single family home, R2 is 7,500 square feet per home. And for R3, it's 6,000 square feet per home on single family residences. Of course, if you go with twin homes, that effectively becomes 5,000 square feet, because you can have 2 residences that share a common wall on 10,000 acres, so that's 5,000 acres each. And part of this area, 300 feet from that band of 300 feet, is R3, which other types of things can be put in there that have slightly higher density, like a fourplex and so forth. So again, it depends on what the developer wants to build, but the density, you almost have to look at it from a what could it be, unless we actually have some sort of plans in front of us. You have to look at the highest potential density and factor in that impact.
So just running rough math, if using 5,000, which is probably significantly less than that, where it's only, I think it was like a third, 2/3 on the zoning map, and then assuming 25% loss for roads, you could get up to 333 using the 5,000 square feet. I think that's probably a pretty high, that's probably significantly too high by the time you bring in a detention basin, and then, as we talked about, putting perpendicular tie-ins into that frontage road. But
Well, you could, in your R3, you can go higher density too, though, than 5,000.
higher than 5,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, because you could put a fourplex on that. And actually, no, the fourplex, the way we ended up passing it was 5,000. So it is
Per unit, so
per
it'd be
unit.
20,000?
Yep.
For a fourplex?
Yep. So it is 5,000. So, and to that end, that's the recommendation that Planning Commission put forth. It agrees with our general plan. It's written into the development agreement, just as appendix A or B or C or whatever it is this map. So that would effectively become the zoning. Did you want to recommend something other than that, Dave?
Well, that's what I'm thinking about, because this doesn't have to be, that's a recommendation. So that's why I want a discussion to see what, maybe some plans were, some ideas, and maybe
So
see.
this map is just based on the city's general plan.
Right,
So
the flume, right?
yeah, the flume. So we had gotten creative on the other one and then we kind of backed down, but this is basically just taking the city's flume,
Right.
scaling it in and saying there's some buffer zone of R3 closer to 15, and then the rest is R2, and so that's what we've proposed, and I think that's why we got the positive recommendation from Planning Commission, was that we're in compliance with the flume. And then now that rural done right has been approved, now we're subject to the requirements that are in there within R2 and R3 zone based on what's shown on this map.
How would the developer feel about taking R3 out?
I don't know that they would
I wouldn't do that.
particularly, I think where we're trying to comply with what the city's outlined for their future land use, and we're complying with it, I don't think that we'd be inclined to stray from that. And I thought part of the rural done right was to change R3 to something that was acceptable to the city. So, I guess the way I think of it is the city has what they wanna see in R3, and I think that you're supposed to provide mixed types of housings within the city, and so
So Dan, can you go back to, the other one where we're talking about sidewalks and things?
The Google Earth?
Yeah. If, that, the lots behind, Lovell's house on the corner.
Is this Lovell's house?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that section there,
You talking these?
just a big section, looks like a little motocross track there. I mean, that's just one, it's owned by, one
Yeah.
person.
Dan Campbell.
Would they be responsible for putting in curb and gutter if they decided to do any kind of building there?
So, the technical answer is yes. We have in our code that we require curb, gutter, and sidewalk unless, and if they want to apply to have a subdivision that doesn't have curb, gutter, and sidewalk, the planning commission has to approve it. So it is part of our requirement, but we have with subdivisions, allowed it to not be as long as they have a good drainage plan. It's kind of a, more of a rural concept. The county is that way, Enoch is that way, except for, does Enoch now require curb, gutter, and sidewalk everywhere?
yeah, pretty much.
So I guess it's just the county that allows, you know, a borrow ditch type subdivision. The planning commission looked at making the requirement permanent in our subdivision code. There wasn't any wiggle room, you just had to do it. And there was a large contingent of the public that came out and said, you're gonna ruin Parowan if you make us have curb, gutter, and sidewalk everywhere. So they backed away from that. So currently written, you're supposed to put in curb, gutter, and sidewalk unless the planning commission lets you not put it in. So the problem with that, of course, is then when you get kids walking to school and where do they go? On the hard surface, they're walking in the road, driving in the road, and then we have other issues that then they expect the city to put it in after the fact. And stuff's expensive, which is usually why cities have developers put it in when they're building. So to answer your question, John, most likely we would tell them to do it unless they ask for it, and
So how far is it then, just do the math, so where the sidewalk ends to the end of, or to their property, then subtract out the street width?
from the sidewalk ends here,
Yeah, right there to the end there, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 streets that you're gonna be taking away curb and gutter and sidewalks,
so that's that 1350.
yeah.
And then what was your next point?
So, well, just those individual streets,
The width?
yeah.
The width is hard to know because I don't know if that road is on the center line to start with.
Okay.
The width may taper, the width may be uniform, I don't know.
The challenge with where you're trying to go with it is just that depending on how that road is built and what the drainage is like, when you're talking about, at least the way I conceptualize it when you say you're gonna improve 200 north is, you're gonna end up putting in ped ramps, cross gutters, a lot of different things when you cross those roads. So you're probably cutting those roads out, and you're probably putting cross gutters in to have an ADA path to travel through them. And so that's where I was saying, if I got to choose which side we were improving, I would choose the north side because it's more straightforward. and then you're not having to deal with whatever the existing drainage does. I'm assuming everything drains kinda northerly to I-15.
It drains west, and it isn't great. We have puddling problems. This subdivision was put in late seventies, early eighties, and before we had the requirements we have now, and we pay for it there.
So on the north side, how far is it from their property all the way to 600, to the Smith's house?
About 2,000.
Like 2,500, I think.
It was about 2,500.
Okay.
25.
So I guess another just thought I'm having, that's a question to council is the curb gutter, because realistically where that's an existing subdivision, there's nothing that's ever gonna trigger that road to be improved.
Correct.
Is it the path of travel for pedestrians where the city does have like a multi-use path, that we could put a path on the south side without, and then to me, having 26 feet of asphalt to meet the fire is a requirement, mandatory, but as far as getting into making all those improvements, as far as cutting out cross gutters and everything, is there another alternative that's maybe a non-standard city section, but you widen the asphalt to 26 feet wide through the roadway itself, and then you provide maybe a meandering asphalt on the south side that isn't curb gutter sidewalk? I just don't wanna ruin Parowan with more curb and gutter sidewalk.
So it would be a separate, like, walking path?
Sometimes that's done where you leave a borrow ditch configuration and they add either a off-site ribbon of, not off-site, but a detached concrete path or a separate asphalt path.
Yeah, and part of the reason why I suggest that is just because of the power pole aspect, because if we end up widening that full thing out and putting that in, and we've gotta take all those underground, that could just, whereas if we had a meandering, so it would be a detached, could potentially be a detached trail to which width and whether it's concrete or asphalt, but that would give us the ability to swing in and out of power poles if those are inside the right of way quite a bit.
We do that, and I'm afraid we're setting the standard for a precedent.
I don't know that there's any precedent to bring it up to standard in the absence of this project.
Well, we have other requirements for other subdivisions or whatever, and then they'll come and say, you allowed this, and you need to give us the same consideration.
Yeah, I guess my point in saying that was just that that's already a fully developed subdivision that has no more triggers to improve it, and so we're making a bad situation better versus on the north side, I would say that's not a good solution because they're gonna come in and do some kind of new development eventually, and then they build to that standard.
So we do have, in the old section of town, just to kinda get an idea what that would look like, we do have a fair amount of this that has, of course, this is where we have 100-foot wide right-of-ways, and, we have a lot of, these sidewalks that are just totally separated from the road. That's kind of the idea. I'm not promoting it or not, I'm just saying that's kinda what that would look like. Of course, the way Dallas is talking about it, it would be an asphalt pathway, or could be an asphalt pathway.
Well, we could, I wasn't aware of that, but we could do something similar to that. We could look at where the right-of-way is, make sure there's no conflicts with power poles, and then if we're talking about a 4-foot concrete sidewalk.
How wide is 200?
Huh?
How wide is 200?
200 is
wide.
not that wide.
It's very small, 'cause I know from my gate to the street, it's 4 or 5 feet. Like, it's not much, and I'm pretty sure it sits on that property line.
It begs the question is when development happens on the north side, if
Whether
would
they
have
gotta
to
dedicate.
give some right of way. 60 feet is the required width on a local road section, and I don't know, of course, I'm gonna look at the county's parcel viewer, and who knows whether it's accurate or not. but we're going to, for purposes of this conversation, guess that it is accurate.
It's right about 50% of the time.
So we don't want to assume. We'll put that in feet, shall we?
Yeah, that's 60 feet.
Appears to be in the 60-foot range.
Part of that with a lot of old roads is the center of asphalt, the center line of the right of way too.
It's,
Because a lot of times it's not.
it's not.
So I mean, if you're widening the road from center line out and putting in, the way this is written, curb, gutter, and sidewalk, it would probably be sufficient to not even touch the north side, and then when they develop here, they could finish whatever. Of course, you don't need that much asphalt for that road section anyways. We do have a typical section that shows a local road section without curb, gutter, and sidewalk, which has 26 feet of asphalt. I think it's 26, and then a separated sidewalk. I can bring that up and everybody.
Hey, Dan, before you leave, that where your cursor is, see how wide those streets are in that subdivision?
In here?
Yeah, just curious. I don't think they're,
Like 45 feet.
they're substandard.
Well, they're back when this was approved. Yeah, 50 feet.
52, yeah.
Yep. And I can pull up that typical section and show you what a sidewalk would look like separated from the road.
Well, you have that at Sky Ranch already. You have a sidewalk, then you have like a couple feet of gravel, then the gutter.
Yep. So I'm wondering if there's any other benefit of any other discussion on this. I'm wondering if there's any other things that you want to talk about. We could potentially move it to the next meeting as an action item, give the council some time to think, ask any questions, go out, eyeball things, look at them, and we can resolve this issue during that action meeting. I mean, I'm not trying to rush us. I don't know how, we're not in an action meeting anyways to make a vote on it, so.
I think we should push it to an action meeting, and then everyone.
I like it how it's written.
Do you wanna go through your highlights that you had?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Let everybody else know kind of what's in here. We start with underground water rights. We could literally say nothing about this because this is already all in our code. There are the annexation is composed of 3 parcels. At a bare minimum, we need a half-acre foot per parcel to annex. And that has to be underground water rights, 1949 or older. That's a minimum, and that doesn't give them any water to subdivide with. You're gonna have to bring additional water at the time of subdivision. But this is a minimum requirement, right? And that's just in our code. There was not a lot of people realize what this means, and there's been some recent discussion about this again. I want to just make a point here. I want everybody to understand that where the city requires water rights of an old priority date to be deeded to the city, this ties our growth to what the underground aquifer can support. We're not just growing without keeping our eye on water. If they do not have water, they can't develop. So that's up to the developer to find that water, buy that water, deed the city that water. It's not like we just say, yep, go to town, build houses, and then the city will figure out how to get water to them. So anyways, just want to clear that up every chance I get, because it's a thing that a lot of people don't understand. I think our policy there has been pretty water wise compared to some of the other municipalities around us. Utilities and easements, this is pretty standard, that they'll be installed at owner's expense, water, power, sewer, etc. This is just a summary of the document. So my own words. Culinary water is subject to modeling requirements to assure adequate fire flow. That's done at the subdivision level. they'll grant utility easements, for the utilities that are put in. They'll have to install fire hydrants and ensure emergency access routes per city fire chief approval. That's pretty standard. We've already talked a lot about the road improvements. The way it's written says upgrade. Sounds like we need to make sure we define that. 200 north from the development to 600 west. Provide at least one additional ingress, egress, access route. The improvements, must be tied to the first subdivision application. Again, that's the way it's written. Developer would like to see it changed. Parks and stormwater, design and build parks and open space per city ordinance for each phase. As we know, we're working on updating our city ordinance on that as we speak. Submit a master storm drainage study or plan with the first subdivision. We're just gonna need to see that whatever they do is thought out and planned for. They have to, manage their own additional stormwater and meter that out. We do have a city master plan for this area, so that's good. They have to address on-site and upstream runoff. Studies required before subdivision, not annexation. Traffic impact study, power capacity study, and drainage study. Legal and administrative terms, pretty much all standard stuff, but the agreement does run with the land, and it binds successors. 20-year term to begin substantial development. After that, the city may rezone. Subject to city's evolving impact and connection fee schedules, and our default processes of notice, cure period, mediation, and public hearing. And finally, the city retains all governmental immunity protections. So most of those are in every annexation agreement that we do. Almost every one on here. The only thing that gets really different here is really kind of comes down to this road improvements. And really, that's pretty much it. What we require with most annexations is all of that other stuff.
So Dallas, you're good with everything except the
Road.
Yes.
the road.
Yep, everything else is fine.
Okay.
Just that one little item.
One little item's not a very little item though, is it?
So yeah, I'd like to, dive into this a little bit farther with that 200 north, maybe talk to some residents that are over there and stuff, and see where that goes, and then bring it back next, city council meeting.
So we have it on the next council meeting, and then we're looking at that meeting to define what improved means. We're looking at the different road sections that the city allows and whether we wanna apply that, and then to what extent Lovell's house or wherever, however we're gonna draw those lines. And then also, is there a threshold that we could start? Are we going to 80 lots? Are they both required at phase one from the start, whether we do one house or 20 houses or 50 houses? Those are kind of the things that we're looking to hone in on.
Yep.
Okay.
Are we all good?
And that'll be the 31st.
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 Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then would we need a public hearing for that too?
We've already had the public hearing.
Yeah, no, we
Oh.
don't.
Okay.
Good question though. Thanks for asking.
No one said anything, so.
No.
No, I meant not from this,
No, it's good.
the public didn't say anything. All right.
All right, are we good to move on?
Think so?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Alex. All right. Moving on to work agenda number 14, discussion of possible ordinance banning feeding of feral cats.
Okay, I don't see him. I was gonna say our police chief hung in there.
Yeah.
Hang on. So there isn't a public hearing, but depending on if the chair wants to allow some comments. I don't know, it's up to you.
You're the boss.
About,
Is this on Farrell?
mhm,
Yeah, I think we should.
okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Make it as quick as I can. My name is Margarita Martin.
Oof.
You're
Sorry.
good, it's okay.
Margarita Martin. I'm a resident, 191 South Main Street. And, I came here because I saw this and I think that this, ordinance could be very, very important for a lot of our residents, including myself. Not just the banning of feeding cats, but also the disposal of the, garbage that is, that is put out there on people's lands as a result of feeding these animals.
Mm-hmm.
We have a situation right now at 53 East 200 South where, I have put a nuisance claim. I came to the police department. We have a fellow that is living, in that home right now. He inherited the property from Mrs. Krista Des that passed away a couple years ago. And the property is just horrendous. And I came in, and I talked to the police, and they were very helpful. They made him clean up. However, he cleaned the front and he pushed it all to the back. If you come to, and I have photos to show you if you allow me. I have had to, I'm planning on putting another nuisance, request on this because we have smells, we have flies. It's become a health issue. It's also, a land, it's just infection all over it. And, it's not healthy for anyone. And I think this ordinance that you folks are putting on the table needs to include also that portion of the cleanup or that portion of how to dispose of this, of this issue, of this, feeding. I would like to have somebody, look into this situation from the city, because if you stand on your tippy toes and you look on the other side of the fence, these animals, they can't even stand living there. So what happens? They come to my yard, which I very nicely keep together because it's a historical home, and we want to keep it nice and beautiful for the city of Parowan, and we're very proud of it. And, I can't keep the cats off from coming and doing their business. So I can't even keep my gardener. So I decided to come tonight, simply because you have it on the agenda, and it's something that needs to be done. I have, I have had a phone call into a couple of the officers at city in regards to the health department, and they're interested in coming and looking at it. But I understand that this is not just the only property that probably has this problem, but ours is just a scale up. So if you allow me, I can show you, and I have them here on my phone, just some, pictures of what you could actually see. And the garage behind the home is just filthy, packed. Now, as an interesting note, we have a family of large vultures.
Vultures.
Yes.
Yes.
And I read about them because when trying to figure out how to move them out, right? Well, one of the things that attract them is the smell of filth. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I found it to be an interesting fact. And I think that, and we're having a problem because we have about 12 or 15 or 16, nesting on our historical, beautiful pine trees.
So the issue that you're having then is they're feeding the feral cats and they're not taking their garbage and putting it in the garbage can.
May I approach to it?
Sure. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, and that's not just one of them, this is the back, the portion, this is. Yeah,
Okay.
it's purifying. So,
those pictures of cats?
No, it's of like food containers that they have fed the cats, but they're not putting them in the garbage.
That looks like my brother Joe's work. He's messy, he's very messy. Yep, okay, yep, that's a feral issue.
Okay.
Can I get with the police chief and then we'll deal
Yeah,
with that?
let's do that,
Okay,
for sure.
I'm happy to work. Yes. Yeah. Yep,
Right.
okay. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you for coming in and addressing that with us. We
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Margarita. I do see Addie hovering out there in the hallway. Addie, are you out there? Oh, is it Mike?
I'll talk with Addie.
Sorry, I wasn't on that part of my glasses where I could focus. Went home.
Went home, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get with him. Uh-oh.
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, and I guess there's, and to some degree, things like this can be handled with nuisance code, right?
Yeah.
The question is do we want to do something with an ordinance? Do we wanna leave it alone and continue to deal with issues on a case by case without any sort of ordinance to hold them to
Well, we
other than
have-
nuisance?
Surely we have help.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I mentioned nuisance.
And public and private nuisance, and I think it's something that, I mean, we can address it with, you're talking about the feral cats or, state of disarray that causes a public health issue?
I'm saying
Two separate issues.
two separate issues.
Mhm.
And we are talking about feral cats. Of course, in this case, feral cats and feeding of feral cats is
Yeah.
contributing to the problem.
Correct.
It shows definitely one side of this, the negative impact. You're gonna find strong, and passionate people on both sides of this issue.
Yes.
We've been getting a lot of comments into the city. I know the chief had some concerns about, enforceability and things like that. We went through this whole ordinance a while back and talked about what it could be, to stay consistent with state code. We just keep having more emails and like, we can be doing taxes and subdivisions and things and not get a lot of people come out, and an issue like this can get half the city to come out with strong opinions on either side.
No, you're right.
So, just not sure where the council wants to go. Do we wanna read through this? Do we wanna bring it back for a vote? Do we wanna put it to bed 'cause we're not interested in doing something other than dealing with nuisances one-on-one? We just need to figure out where we're going with it.
I don't know. I see this as a public health issue, and I see the feeding of the feral cats as a different issue. I don't know that I've ever heard of a city, town, ordinance, county banning the feeding of an animal that comes over to your, and by banning, that would then require some type of enforcement or sanction. So if we have people taking a picture of Callie feeding a cat that isn't hers, and a complaint made, then I have to investigate her, and I don't know if that's, I just have never heard of that.
Well, so this ordinance is by the way, I'm not advocating one way or the other. I really am totally neutral here. The prohibited conduct is feeding stray or feral cats which are not participating in a recognized community cat program, leaving food out in a manner that attracts wildlife or causes property damage or health hazards. That one's kind of something that you can really pin on. You can, when somebody brings in pictures that has overflowing food that's just been left out for hours and hours and it's causing a thing, that one's kind of an easy one to say you can't do that. Right now, other than if it's, you can easily prove that it's a nuisance, it might be kind of hard to say what that is. And then obstructing of efforts of animal control officers, approved community cat sponsors, so, I don't know.
I would think that we should let our existing ordinances function now until, and see how it takes care of the problem without trying to be too encroaching, overreaching.
Does anybody else have any other discussion? I mean, we kinda need to have a direction.
I gotta say one other thing. If we pass this ordinance, we gotta be prepared to create and develop and monitor a community cat program.
Yeah.
Because that's how you'll go about doing it. If you wanna do it in an approved way, which means we're gonna have to monitor that, give permits and so forth.
With the staff that we currently have.
Yeah, I don't think that we should. 'Cause like Scott says, we do have ordinances that pertain to health and to nuisance, whatever. There's already existing ordinances that can take care of the health and the problems that are associated with it.
Yes, until especially with the young woman that just came in, that is a health issue. I mean,
Right.
it is a health issue.
And that can be taken care of with that avenue, can it, Scott?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just use like Councilman not Harris, Burton, is just, we have ordinances for, health and everything, and just go with that for right now.
Councilmember Harris, do you have whatever?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
So I'm getting the consensus that we're going to go with what we already have in ordinance and not create a separate ordinance for feral cats.
Okay,
I think that's the consent.
as a pet owner, I think the command would be, leave it. You're telling me to leave it?
The
That's
consensus-
hilarious.
The consensus
Well,
that
no,
I'm
I
getting
mean,
is leave it.
before
You
we,
need to know how funny that is. That's hilarious.
and when you say unlawful, that connotes,
Oh,
a criminal penalty.
yeah.
So we would have to talk to the Iron County Attorney's Office about prosecuting feral cat feeders, FCFs,
We had civil penalties. There were civil penalties.
but, okay, then we have to change it from unlawful.
Oh,
Unlawful means it's like a crime, in my mind,
Oh.
in statutory construction, but that's me. You could say it's, subject one to a civil penalty, but, I don't know. The way this is written just tells me it shall be a crime to feed a feral cat.
yeah.
So we're gonna leave it.
Mhm.
We're gonna leave it be.
Beautiful.
All right? Okay, are we done with that discussion? Okay. Let's move on to item 15, discussion on various fencing requirements in code and explore and update.
Okay, now this is not a discussion of the RV park.
Right.
But the RV park may come into this as an example, exhibit A, B, or F, or whatever. So we have some issues with our fencing code. As we lived through recently with the RV park, we also have some other instances where, we have the potential PUD out there, and fencing comes into play there. We've been here long enough, and I don't wanna go into too much detail. We don't have a lot of definitions. We have one definition, and it's fence, a physical barrier to delineate, contain, or design an area, right? It does not define what is a screening fence or a site obscuring. I think that we need to add that. The main fencing code that we have is in the Land Use and Development, Section 15, under supplementary and qualifying regulations. We have some interesting things there. For one, it says that a site obscuring fence, which again we don't have a definition of, shall be required along the boundary line, and then it describes different types of fences in there. The one that has come up a lot is this one here: all commercial and industrial developments having a common lot line with the property used for residential purposes shall require the construction of a 7-foot high site obscuring masonry fence. That's a little bit problematic just because masonry fences don't go to 7 feet.
Yeah, just
They're 8-foot blocks, so they go naturally to 6 or to 8,
just
or
change
6 foot 8 inches, or 7 foot 4 inches, or whatever it is, but they don't go to 7 foot. So that's a problem with that. And then we have a thing that says any structure having 4 or more dwelling units and having a common lot line with property used for less dense residential purposes or vacant property shall require the construction of a 6-foot high masonry or tight board fence. And then there's some mobile home park requirements. I'm gonna just pause for a second there. RV parks, as we went through this in very much detail, there's a requirement in there for screening. Each RV park shall be adequately screened using walls, permanent solid fences, and or hedges at least 6 feet in height, to limit noise and trespassing. We had a conflict which was like, which one applies, this commercial, the commercial and industrial code, since an RV park could be considered commercial, even though people are literally sleeping and residing there overnight, or whether this should apply. And then there was all that question is what's permanent, solid, and hedges, and noise, trespassing, all that stuff. And then of course in mobile home parks, it says that there needs to be a strip of land 15 feet wide surrounding the park, yada yada, with an approved wall or fence designed to afford privacy to the development, not to the neighbors. So here's the questions that I would like to resolve. Who builds the fence? So it's one thing to say, okay, that makes sense that there's a requirement. If there's a commercial property and then there's going to be a residential development next to them, and the commercial property is already in, and there's no wall, and which we have this case coming up potentially with this annexation that we just got done talking about, they will be right up next to the RV park. Well, the RV park, per its requirements, has to put in what they have to put in, but are we going to now say that the residential development has to put in this wall since it's going to be up against commercial? In the case of the PUD out closer to the freeway, which hasn't yet been resolved because they withdrew for a moment, they will actually border commercial property that's already in place, the Red Fox storage units, and the owner of Red Fox says, well, who has to put a fence up? Do I have to put a fence up? Is it always the commercial that has to put the fence up? My property is already there, it's already developed.
If he's there first.
Or to the developer that's building second have to put it up? So is it first Is
We
it
don't
whoever's
have
coming
to
in
put
for a
it-
building
Don't
permit?
they have to put it up when it's approved for that use, if the ordinance states? So if I go in and, I don't care if there's not a house around me, if I'm gonna build a storage facility,
So when he built it, he was surrounded by commercial property. We've, now with the
okay, well,
rezone,
when it was approved, I would think for me
Right.
I would have, 'cause I don't think the commercial property that's already there doesn't have to put up a fence in anticipation
Right.
of
some future thing.
some.
So what if it is zoned residential, and it's raw land, and the commercial property is going in? We say, we anticipate in the future you're gonna be up against residential, therefore you have to put the you have
Then
to put
we
the fence in.
approve a feral cat center where they're neutered and nipped and tucked.
So again,
You need
whoever comes in for a
10
building
foot
permit,
wall
and is
for
it
that.
against current development that's already there, or the zoning of it? And then the other question is, this says, commercial and industrial developments having a common lot line with property used for residential purposes. Doesn't say that it's zoned residential, it says that it's used. And do we wanna keep it that way? If you have somebody with a home in a commercial zone,
Yes, you do.
and everybody's gonna build walls all the way around them as they build,
I think you
hence
have,
the Robinson situation.
yeah.
All
Right.
commercial
Well, they're
enterprises have a common lot
annexed
for residential
in, they were what, ag?
require the construction of
Yeah.
septic
And then
Well,
they
it was-
they basically had to get forced zoning changes.
Right.
So to me, they shouldn't lose their rights to residential right,
Right.
so.
So, that's what I'm just saying, is let's clarify what we want to do. A couple of other questions: when is it required? Is it the use or the zoning that requires the fence to be built? What definitions do we wanna add? I think we definitely wanna add a site obscuring. How high? You'll notice in some places it said 6, in other places it said 8, and in other places it said 7.
Yeah.
I think
And are we comfortable, and is it always gotta be masonry? Masonry is the most expensive site obscuring fence, other than custom whatever. Are we okay with other types of site obscuring? Put a thumb in that. Can we fix the RV park requirement? Let's do that while we're doing this. Let's either have, this whole screening clause, let's just say, either one, it's commercial, and therefore, whatever commercial requirements are. Meaning if it abuts another commercial, there's not a requirement for a fence. Or say it is, or it has its own rules, but it clearly says that the other code doesn't apply, right? The other commercial, code it's not subject to that. This, trumps that code. Let's make that clear. Okay, here's some things to think about. This is what Cedar City's code says, and it has some elegant solutions to some of this. Same section in their code, that qualifying other section. Site obscuring fences, it says, shall be required along the boundary line in the following cases. Commercial and industrial developments. On all commercial and industrial developments in areas zoned accordingly, having a common lot line with property used for residential purposes, shall require the construction of a 6-foot-high site obscuring masonry fence. There's a couple of things that happen there. Developments in areas zoned accordingly. Well, technically, if it's a new development, so anything that's already there is grandfathered, whatever it is, anywhere in the city, right? But a new development comes in, you're not gonna build a commercial in a non-commercial development.
Right.
Unless you do it somehow with a variance or conditional use permit. But I would think you'd want to address this thing, right? And they say, having a common lot line with property used for residential purposes, right? So that's what you guys thought you liked. They're requiring a 6-foot-high, ours is 7, right? Site obscuring masonry. Then the next one I thought was interesting, and at first glance I just thought whatever, and then I realized the beauty of the second clause here. On residential developments, keep in mind, we're under the topic of commercial and industrial developments. On residential developments, having a common lot line with property used for commercial and industrial purposes shall require the construction of a site obscuring masonry fence. Effectively, what these two do is say, whoever's coming in for a building permit,
Yep.
you're gonna have to put this in if you're next to a property that's being used in the opposite. That's effectively what happens by having both of those in the order that they are. And then, of course, they have a carve-out for mixed-use projects. Translation, mixed-use project has commercial and residential intermixed. That's what the mixed use is, and we're not gonna make people put a block wall up in an area that's specifically designed as a mixed use. So that's a really good carve-out. They have the changes in density, which we do, which talks about when you have, for example, if you have R3 in a backyard of R1, and you're gonna put like, you know, some townhomes or something like that, then there's a formula that says when you have to put a fence in. Of course, we don't have townhomes, but we do have a difference in density, and this is their rule, where the difference in the total number of dwelling, I think that's supposed to say dwellings, is 3 or more, shall require this construction of a site obscuring fence. So we could have that even still with rural done right. If you had a fourplex back up against R1, you would require who's ever building it
To put in the fence.
to put in
I
a
like
fence.
that.
I actually like that too.
I like to see, Cedar City Fence Code, how they, their definitions of fences. I don't know if you have that or not, but I have it in front of me if you want me to read it.
Yeah, I thought I had it here, but I guess I don't.
So there are three, the first one's masonry. The second one would be a solid composite material as manufactured by Trex or any approved equal to. So I'd take out our wood because that's just, I mean, they're nice, but who's gonna maintain that when it rots out or needs painting or boards break or things like that? And then the third one is chain link, which meets the minimum specifications as manufactured by Privacy Link or an approved equal with factory insert slats that achieve 98% privacy factor. So that's pretty hard to get with chain link fence and just slats. That's it.
And that's their definition of site obscuring.
Yes.
And so they have some that say site obscuring masonry, and I think other places where it just says site obscuring. And obviously a site obscuring masonry is that highest tier of, you gotta put a block wall in, CMU wall. Or I guess you could put a brick wall in.
Yeah.
Anyways, so there was a lot that I liked there. From some of the questions that I postulated, I think that it answers who builds the fence.
Right.
It would be basically whoever is doing
Building.
whoever's developing.
Yep.
Yep, whoever's building it.
And I would want to add one caveat if we did that, if we did similar, is it would say, having a common lot line with property used for or zoned.
Or zoned.
Because otherwise, you have a commercial that goes in right next to a property that is empty but zoned R1. Is it used for R1 at that point? That's why I'd like to say used for or zoned, so that if it's zoned but still undeveloped, they still put the wall in.
Yeah,
Are you
that
gonna
would-
do that on A as well? Used,
Yes,
zoned for residential purposes?
both, yeah. So that was my thought there.
I like that.
And then I guess we could decide whether we wanted to do 6-foot requirement or 8-foot requirement. 7-foot requirement doesn't make it much sense.
I just stick with 6.
Yeah, stick with 6.
I want 10.
That requires an engineer.
Does it really?
It does.
So, any other thoughts? I mean, I could write that up and we could look at it next time and see what it looks like.
I like what you've brought
Could
forth.
you put in the definition of fence,
Get rid of the word screen.
something that you can't see through?
I thought you were gonna go back to feral cats again.
So
Just
the feral
that
cats.
artful language I've suggested.
Yes.
We ban chain link fences, period. Commercial.
Yeah, and I like,
Yeah, you can say no chain link if you want.
I mean, I like John's definitions too that he read. I think we need some, do we need definitions in there as well?
Yeah. The only definition we have right now is
Is
fence.
that?
Yeah.
And I would think that we'd wanna look through and make sure if there's anything else that really had a Spence-specific thing that we all think we understand,
Mhm.
like to update the RV code, like, let's get rid of this
Yeah.
screening, and we're just gonna
Yeah.
call it fencing. What would you rather see in RV code?
Revert to,
Yeah, just, yeah,
I
'cause
think if
Just
revert,
it's commercial.
Just consider
let
that
it
it's
be
commercial,
commercial.
and whatever applies to
Get rid of
commercial
it.
applies to it.
just revert it.
Cause they
back
still
to-
sell stuff, like, it's still commercial, so
It is.
Yeah, that really caused us a lot of heartache.
Yeah, it did.
Mm-hmm.
And you're essentially increasing the cost of an RV park by doing that. Generally, they're gonna be large acreage things.
Mhm.
But it is commercial.
Right.
They're selling a certain product, really.
But you can't favor certain businesses over others.
No, it needs to be
It's no
straight
different than
across.
doing an annexation and making them upgrade a whole street. So, there's certain things that,
No, I wanted clarification, 'cause I want it, while we're doing it, let's fix it. Whatever we wanna do for any future stuff. Maybe we'll never have another RV park, but.
Well, and I think the issues that we always come upon are like, things like this, that we maybe didn't see or think about until it's in, and then we're like, oh crap, why does it say that?
Yep.
You know,
Trying to
There's-
shut the fence after the cows got out.
yeah, and there's been several things since I've been on council in 3.5 years that were like, oh, well, that's weird in that code, or things, and then you go back and change them.
That's
But,
usually how you find you have a problem.
yeah.
That's kinda the way it works.
We go the hard way through the weeds.
Okay, well, let me take that and come up with some potential language, and we can bring it back to another work meeting, and if we like it,
Perfect.
we'll schedule an ordinance change and public hearing if we want to.
All right. All right, let's move on to reports, update, and business follow-up. Councilmember Burton, we can start with you if you're ready.
I'm just thinking, I couldn't go to planning zoning 'cause of the stroke. They scheduled every meeting on Tuesday. I went to the temple, so, water recharge and the historic preservation, all I can say is the 4th of July was good, and I think the parade was excellent and all the activities. The fireworks, I enjoyed a bird's eye view of them.
Yeah, that's correct.
And they were very well organized and run. There was, one thing on that water recharge, Jed, he's staging his equipment. He's got stuff he's staging out by
Yeah.
my house and out.
He's planning on
Yeah.
starting on not the one that we waiting on at the
Yeah.
NRCS, but the other line.
Mhm.
He's gonna have 2 crews start next Monday.
side of 300's going down,
Yeah, he's,
What's
side of 300 they going down. Is that the dig,
300 east,
Yeah,
right down the middle of the road.
really?
Only place we can go.
Well, if they do that,
just down to the
I
entrance.
gotta know when they come in front of me.
But it's only,
Only going to the entrance.
it's only like a
fairground.
couple hundred feet right
Yeah.
by Center Street.
Alright, they're not going all the way.
No.
No,
Thank
just
goodness.
down to the entrance of the fairground.
That's good.
Center
And,
Street Fairgrounds.
and then, what else? There was something about water. No, I'll have to think on it.
Okay, if you come up with it before we're done,
Thank you.
all right. Councilmember Dean.
Only thing, 4th of July was, I pulled a float in the parade. And then, the
By
shade,
hand?
what was that?
By hand?
By his truck.
By my truck.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you threw me no candy.
Well, we ran out. It was busy. That one thing, that parade was just packed.
And they're
What?
mostly non-residents.
That's all right. They're spending some money though afterwards.
Jet said that we had probably one of the best attended 4th of July
Mm.
days and events in a long time.
And there was a lot, I was actually gonna say that as well, is like, I have never seen that many for the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Like a hometown, you think more Parowan residents at the 4th of July parade. you more see that for Labor Day.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously more Labor Day.
And then, Friday evening at the music in the park, the Shade Tree Committee, along with Parowan Prevention Coalition, had a booth, and we raffled off 5 trees. And all 5 people are happy with it, so,
Nice.
that's it.
Right.
I was gone on vacation, so I wasn't here.
Dan, do you have anything else you wanna add?
Yes, tomorrow we will be publishing an RFP for our airport FBO, fixed-based officer. That's a fixed-based
Wing.
FBO, fixed-base operator, jeez. This is a big deal. Of course, we have, right now we have Mick. I can't remember the name of his company off the top of my head right now.
Goodfellow? No?
Nope.
No.
It's an LC. It changed, anyways. Everybody knows Mick Lauer, and his dad helps. We are putting that out to, RFP, and it will be posted on the public notice website that the state has for, their procurement website. We will mail one out to anybody that we know of that is interested. We have several people that have showed some level of interest. I don't know if we'll get 1, 0, or 10. There's been some rumors spread around that we are kicking out the current FBO or not allowing them to do it. Spread by some of them themselves. I don't know where that's come from, because that's not the case. I've talked with Mick. Mick knows that he is definitely available or allowed to put in a bid, and we anticipate getting a bid from Mick. He's expressed that he was interested in doing that when I last talked to him on the subject. So we'll put it out there and just see what it looks like. This is a 5-year contract. We're at the end of the current 5-year contract, and we wanted to see what sort of options were out there. We will have the airport board. It'll be open for 3 weeks, and then we will have the airport board look through and give their opinion. We'll have a staff opinion and recommendation, and then of course it'll go to city council for a decision point. But this is essentially our dance partner, our marriage partner at the airport, and it's just a critical role for the city, and important that we find the right partner there. I just gotta say, many thanks to the fire department. We had fireworks in a new location, both city fireworks and all of the resident fireworks that they did. We had a few little spot fires and things that night. All in all, we do care about celebrating our country's independence, and a lot of people say you're nuts to even allow it, and a lot of cities ban it, but we maintain that if we can do it responsibly. Just want to say many thanks to fire department that does a lot of work. I did not realize how much time they take to prepare those fireworks.
A lot.
It's a lot of time, and thanks to Paraguna Fire Department, they actually they were on call and kind of chasing around any calls that came in while our department was setting off the fireworks and all of that. So it's kind of just a big combined effort. That's one of the cool things about living in a small town. And it was really good. The citizens were awesome at cleaning up their stuff there at the fairgrounds. Yeah, it is public property, but that's why we should take care of it, because it does belong to all of us. And I did a post on Facebook, like, we're grateful because we want to have the county continue to let us use that. And you know, the county could say no, and the quickest way for them to say no is if we just leave a big fat mess that they then have to hire somebody to come in and clean up. And so the fact that everybody was really good to clean up. I went to Cedar City, picked up my daughter from the Canyon View High School parking lot. It looked like Mad Max movie, and the amount of debris all over the place, and the dumpsters were on fire, and it was something else to behold, and just made me proud of Parowan. So that's all I have.
Well, everybody said what I was gonna say about the fire department and the parade, so, I have been getting some questions about what is being built out by the airport.
So that's, I think Dave may have been the only council that was on the council when that development agreement was done. That is Goodfellow Corporation.
Okay.
It, not linked to the FBO. Goodfellow Corporation is a large multi-state, I think they're in 7 states. They build crushers and asphalt machines and, all kinds of things. They're an industrial manufacturer, and the city had a development agreement with them clear back to maybe
Well, that was,
2020 or 2021.
so I was on council when we did stuff with that, wasn't I?
Uh-uh.
No?
No, it was before that.
Way before that?
No.
Anyways, so they're finally building, we're working through some stuff on utilities and things like that, road extension and all of that stuff. But that's exciting. They represent the anchor tenant in our industrial park. If we can get this grant that we're applying for with EDA to put in the road and improve the water and power, we're really hoping to see some commercial development of the industrial park out there. And so they're the first movers on that, but they've been there for a long time. They just haven't started building, so. You start putting up a big, huge metal building and it gets people.
Well, and I even said something to that line, but I was like, we don't see all of the permits and building permits and things that come through, so.
Oh, speak of that, there's a large 60-acre parcel there that the airport board has been working on through the fence agreement with the owners of that for quite some time. We finally got to an area where we're gonna do an MOU for future something. They have sold that property, it's under contract. They have a certain number of months to do due diligence. And so we'll see who the new owners of that are, but it sounds like they wanna do, some hangar development. And continue to pursue through the fence agreement with the city on that. So, I just found out about that yesterday, that they've got it under contract. And we're scheduling a meeting to meet with them next week to just kind of let them know what a through the fence agreement would most likely look like with the city, and, you know, they need to understand what sort of costs they're looking at as far as to build a taxiway out to their property and build the road around their property, 'cause right now it's gonna go through it, not through it, but it'll bisect it from the airport where our current road is, and so there's a lot of things we gotta work through, make sure that the new buyers understand, but hopefully they're a good partner for us out there, so.
Great.
Hey, Dan, did Aldo start on that, Meeks Pond inlet outlet project?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know that we talked with the farmers, and they put water in Meeks. It wasn't super low, but it had been getting fairly stale, and so they put water in it just last week and topped it off. It runs year round, or it runs all around the clock during the winter, but in the summer we have to work with them to put water in there for our water right that we have. They did do that, but I don't know if he worked on that or not.
Okay. Oh, and the 4-bay well's back online for whatever use may come up.
The 4-bay well,
Well, yeah. Yeah.
just pumping it into the irrigation.
No, he's got it back so it can be used.
Oh, yeah, that's right, 'cause we had the
Backing up.
well pulled.
Yeah,
the
it's
pump-
back together
pump is
and back operable if needed.
We may talk about pumping that well, just depending on what happens. The Yankee was topped off, but man, it's hot and it's dry and things like that, so we may end up pumping that well.
Okay.
All right, Callie, do you have anything? Scott?
I don't, thank you, Mayor,
You're welcome.
Pro Tem, Madam. Great
I'll hold mayor for one day,
great job.
one evening.
You know that we have a closed session, right?
I do not, but I was just gonna ask you if we had a closed session.
Yeah, it'll be quick.
All right, what do we need to talk about?
Strategy session to discuss purchase, exchange, lease, or sale of real property.
All right, can I have a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor? Oh, wait, let's do a roll call. Let's start with Councilmember Harris.
Dave Harris, aye.
Rochelle Topham, aye.
John Dean, aye.
David Burton, aye.
All right. Thanks, audience, for being
You know what?
here.
There's nobody here. We could stay here and do our closed session. Let's just shut that door, turn off YouTube.
Do we need to turn our, should we turn our mics off?